werewolves, vampires.
All the ones, yeah. And it does, I wouldn't say it's traditional sort of Hammer horror, but, vampires and werewolves, it's a spin on it. Got me thinking, if you make a Frankenstein out of Dracula's,
right,
is that a Drakenstein or a Frankula? What about if you make a Frankenstein out of Wolfman's, is that a Frankenman or a Wolfenstein?
Oh, God.
That one's a recipe for disaster.
That is what I, back in the day, like when I was a kid and it came out, what I hoped the Wolfenstein game would be.
How
it's about
disappointing.
being like a werewolf Frankenstein.
You're the only person who played Wolfenstein, killed Hitler, Robo-Hitler, and thought, that could have been more exciting.
Yeah, it would have been much cooler if he'd have been a Frankenstein made out of Wolfman's. Can tell you that much.
Welcome to the Electronic Wireless Show episode, I think maybe 139, possibly 140. It's episode something anyway.
A giant number.
A giant number indeed,
episode
Matthew Castle.
1 million.
Because this is the Best Giants in Games special episode of Rock Paper Shotgun's PC Gaming Podcast. That's the only podcast you need, in my opinion. And this week, I, Alice Bell, am joined by Craig Davies.
Hello.
And David Prowse.
Look both ways before crossing the road. I'm your father.
Yeah.
Good work. Both giant men. So well chosen. Yeah. David Prowse was apparently very lovely. Everyone who's met him...
He passed away recently, didn't he?
Not even that recently, I don't think. Sadly.
Oh, yeah, I think it was ages ago. But yeah.
Time has stood still.
Now returns as a force ghost.
Very nice, large force ghost.
Yeah.
Telling people to cross the road. That's a good kind of haunting.
Maybe a lovely haunting, actually.
Be a bit annoying, though. So like if you're followed by a ghost telling you to be careful crossing the road all the time. I'm 31 years old. I have to cross the road.
That's more likely to cause accidents. Drivers would see the giant ghost of Dave Prowse and be like, what the hell? And swerve into, pavement dwellers.
I was going to say it was the sort of thing Ghostus would do, because he's a nice ghost, but then he'd be more likely to follow you around correcting you on Latin grammar or like wondering if Roman stuff used to stand where you were or just doing oratory. He wouldn't be a very helpful ghost. Well, I know this. I live with him.
Yes. Well, but I mean, it has been a while since. So I should say thank you, listener, for joining us this week. Because last week we tried to record this very episode and it didn't work because I was in rural England and had terrible internet. And as soon as I tried to record it, Nate and Matthew just started sounding like mangled robots, like they were trying to dial up to the internet like the old days. So I couldn't hear anything they were saying, and I was just hearing like massive fungal infection. So we had to abandon.
Which reminds me, of course, the death of King Bogey. So long-term or that medium or even short-term listeners will know that I had an aggressive goby, Australian desert goby called King Bogey. And I'm not kidding when I say he was aggressive. He slaughtered everyone who lived with him. which was about 7 other gobies. And then he sort of sat in a cave, hyperventilating and gurning for a couple of weeks. And I thought that was it. But then I noticed lots of babbies in the tank. He'd been sitting in the cave, fanning the eggs with his tail, with his fins rather, to keep them oxygenated. And they'd all hatched. It's sort of a redemption arc. But yeah, they don't live a long time as it is, and they've got quite a fast metabolism, and that kind of like used all of his remaining stamina points. And as soon as they hatched, he just sort of lumbered to the front of the tank and burst. Well, he didn't burst, he just keeled over with a massive fungal infection. So we did a little funeral for him. Thought it'd be a nice way to teach my daughter about both death and gobies in a non-threatening setting. My friend 3D printed a little casket for him, which I packed with salt to keep him dry. And he's in there, a hero for all time. And there's like 40 kids growing up.
So you actually embalmed him like an emperor.
If it's good enough for the Egyptians, Alice, it's good enough for me. And those are words I live by.
So after all your goby talk, I looked at pictures of these fish. I had no idea how small they were.
Oh, yeah.
And that all this time, I thought you were talking about something substantial and all this kind of personality that you'd mapped onto them. I thought you'd extracted from like looking at them, but it turns out that they're like, I'm smaller than like a grain of rice. I think you're projecting an awful lot.
They're not that small, Matthew.
They are that small.
But who's got them? Who owns them?
I looked it up on Google Images.
Look, Google Images. You wind your neck in. They're about the size of a child's thumb.
Oh. How old is the child?
4.
Okay.
Still quite small.
Oh well, that's bigger than I thought. I thought they were tiny, tiny, tiny things. And
they are when they're first
when you said gurning, I wouldn't be able to tell which end of it was which.
Oh no, believe me, man, it was gurning.
Okay. So I'm not calling you a liar. I just wanted to.
Are.
No, I'm just saying. I don't know if I would have been able to have seen that level of like humanity in them that you have.
No, they're inhuman, but you got to look closely. That's the thing. What was it? Takashi Amano, who was the pioneer of modern aquarium design. I can't remember the quote, but it was basically, gotta love small animals. Only said in a really like dignified, I thought about this for 20 years to phrase it perfectly Japanese way.
I think he famously said, bang on the glass if you want them to go faster. That was the observation he'd reached after all these years.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that sad... well, it's a mixed update, isn't it? Life finds a way. And
life of Gobes.
Yeah. And now, Matthew, I wanted to ask you about something I've seen you've been up to recently, which is apparently reading reviews of soft drinks on Amazon.
Well, yeah. So the route I took to this is there's an Assassin's Creed DLC out this week set in Ireland. I've been to Ireland. I went there for one day for a press trip, and when I was there, I drank a really delicious orange fizzy drink. Was
it a Club Orange?
A Club Orange, yeah, and it was noticeably like nicer than a Fanta or a Tango. And yeah, so I looked up online to see if I could like import some Club Orange, and then that took me down the rabbit hole of fizzy drinks being sold on Amazon. And I found like a huge outpouring of love for Rio Tropical, which I am also a big fan of.
Yeah, that's my favourite ever.
I love Rio.
I didn't see you tweeting about your love for Club Orange. I just saw where you'd clipped out a review. Someone saying, if Rio was a girl, I would marry that girl or something.
Yeah, which Rio is a really great drink. And for ages, I thought you could only buy it in swimming pool vending machines. because that's like the only that or and some fish and chip shops. Like it's not sold commonly in Tesco's or whatever. But yeah, you can buy like huge trays of it. So I'm going to become like a big Rio import. I haven't told Catherine yet. But I'm going to start like importing like just crates of Rio.
Well, that's what I did with illegal German crayfish. It's can't go wrong.
Are you gonna, instead of being like an old person buying loads of gold and keeping under their bed, are you gonna like put all your money in cans of Rio?
Yeah, I think so. I think because everyone like, I think there's a big untapped market for it. These reviews showed that there was a lot of love for it. I think a lot of people have forgotten how good it is. I honestly think Rio's gonna like, it is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, it's bloody incredible stuff. I really desperately want some now.
Oh, no. I sometimes get a Deliveroo takeaway just so I can... what I'm actually after is the Rio, but I have to also buy kebabs to get it over the value.
Oh, you have to? Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't want to order 10 cans of Rio from a kebab shop on Deliveroo because they'll think I'm mad. Would they?
No, they just think you're a man who knows what he likes.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's so good. It's not too fizzy. It's not too sweet. It's just...
Yeah.
But it is sweet and fizzy.
It's a great combination of fruits as well. Yeah.
It's like the Power Rangers, isn't it? You got guava, pineapple...
Oh, my God.
And the other 3 good ones.
Yeah. Superb.
I hate it when... things of fruit juice are like, oh, magical fruits of India. And then you look on the label and there's all these cool fruits that look like, you know, and like those things night swing around on ropes. And you're like, oh, this is going to be great. But then you notice like a sun rising at the back of the picture is a bloody orange. Like just sneaking in like the puppet master at the edge of vision. Then you look at the ingredients, it's like orange juice, 93%. You know, it'd be like a bloody homeopathic quantity of lychee in there.
Oh,
you're meant to be so grateful for it.
Oh my God.
Innocent smoothies are the worst as well. It's always like bunkenberry and worm flavour.
And then it's 90% apples. Banana, yeah.
God.
Wow, any stand-up comedians should take note because the
yeah, I tell you what, I respond big to fruit proportion gags.
There you go. That's going to be my new thing.
That was that was a killer for the Matthew Castle audience.
That's like gold. That's Michael McIntyre gold. That's observational comedy and experience. Have you ever noticed how fruit juice is all orange juice? Oh my God! Yes,
I was feeling quite good about that until the Michael McIntyre comparison. That's like, God, you're looking very smart today, like
oh God,
a war criminal.
Actually, a lot of the stuff that Matthew complains about is that kind of peak, like Jerry Seinfeld 90s observational, like, what's the deal with sauces for meat made out of fruit? Oh, God.
Wonderful.
That reminds, are you going to become like a like one of those people that's like basically a professional Amazon reviewer? Or I
just don't think. No, I don't think so. I don't think I'd buy enough stuff from them. Like I'd probably, if I'm just buying a lot of Rio, that's like one Rio review, isn't it?
That's true. Have you guys seen the review for Veet/Imac hair removal cream? That it's an absolute classic. It's called like, do not put on knob and
I'm not aware of that. I am now.
I'll put a link in the, because basically Veet/Imac does I don't know if it's still that, but it does like a hair removal cream that is it's like it's for women, and it's a very strong kind of like it's almost like it's an acid. I can't remember what's in it, but basically it dissolves your hair, and then you can just sort of
classic knacky yourself in the name of beauty business.
Yeah. So but you're not supposed to put it like properly on your bits,
Right.
And it says like on it like don't put on your genital, and this guy bought some and then used it, even though it says that, and the title of his review is "Warning: Do not put on knob and and it's just
smooth as a kendo.
Yeah, but it's also like very obviously painful because he slathered it all over his balls. So it's very funny. It's like, even though it says "Do not put on your genitals," don't ignore that. Like I did. I'm trying to think of a way one can segue talking about a willy into talking about giants, and I don't think there's one that isn't just kind of.
That is rocky waters. That is.
Yeah, it's like sub pub bants level segue.
That's
what
a very
about
different
John
podcast.
Willies?
So that man's got a small and painful willy now, but I tell you who'd have a big willy is giants.
Ah, yes.
So yeah, this week's topic is the best giants in games, and we did it last week, so we're trying to be like, it was planned for last week to be timely because Matthew had played Resident Evil Village, which has the big
has a giant vampire lady.
Yeah.
I worried that she's a bit played out now. Like already by now, like everyone's sort of done.
But
well,
listen,
that's okay. We'll just use her as her way in.
She's still big.
Then,
is she good? Like, is she actually a good character in the game?
She's evil. Do you mean good and good or bad?
She is. I thought she got quite limited screen time.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with her. So she got spotted early on in previews. Like, she's quite a big presence in the trailers, and everyone got super excited, and the internet got super horny for this giant vampire lady. And knowing how kind of Resident Evil games sort of work, I remember watching those things and thinking, well, she's probably going to be dead in the first 3 hours, and then you're going to be, she didn't have the feel of like the big baddie of the game.
But she is the big lumbering one that hunts you around. She fills that role admirably.
Yeah, she definitely does that. She's do some, big leaning under doors and things. She's very much like that giant, the sort of the big guy from Resident Evil 2.
Dr. Big Man, yeah.
That's right. She is good. Like, she's quite charismatic and interested. If anything, she's kind of like quite a strong, burst of character right near the start. So, when she isn't really in the rest of it, which I guess, sort of spoiler alert, she's not. You do sort of sense, she is missed, I think.
That I found, because there was too much of a coward and a lazy man to play it, but I did watch like an 8-hour long play on YouTube of it, because I do like watching horror games. I like feeling fear vicariously. It felt like, because you've got the 4 lairds who you're trying to get MacGuffins off, and it feels like they were all done by completely separate teams. Right. The tone, just, like in the Frightening Dollhouse, like the horror's actually a bit much. But then towards the end, you've just got like someone who looks like a poorly written early 90s wrestler in Heisenberg.
Yeah.
Who's just got a load of like Frankensteins with engines for heads and stuff. And it's...
How did you feel about the Fishman?
Oh, he was just pathetic, wasn't he? He just moaned. I barely understood what his deal was. I just really wanted him to die.
You would have banged on his tank.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? You know the muscly arms clasping hands meme?
Yeah.
Like, that's us right now over Moreau off Resident Evil Village.
I'll tell you what, and those big arms, they'd be amazing at thumping the glass.
Oh, they would absolutely pulverize it. Yeah.
So, I know, like, it is good to talk about, like, what's her name? Lady Dimitrescu?
Dimitrescu.
Dimitrescu.
They make a point of that in the game.
But is she actually one of the best giants in games then, Matthew?
she's a pretty good giant. Like, because she lives in sort of a normal sized house, which is quite good. So you get to see her do a lot of kind of like crouching to get through doors and things, which isn't something you always see, you know.
Well, that doesn't make sense because she's a vampire. She's presumably been living in this house for a very long time. Why hasn't she?
I think she must have lived there before she was a giant, and then she became giant.
Okay.
Yeah, because they've all been given mega gifts by
yeah, and she was given the gift of being big. And it is a gift. Think of all those high up things you can reach. Like, there's legitimately places I can put stuff in this house where Catherine will never ever get to it.
But she could just redo some of those doors.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the thing. If she bought that house after she was a giant vampire, she's a fool. I mean, it's annoying. Like, you find a lot of documents that kind of like explain the backstory, and there's never a document that explains kind of exactly when she purchased it and what the state of her height was. Because
what sort of a game is it if you can't find other people's mortgage documents?
Yeah. I would like to know. That's the thing. Everyone online was like, "Oh, how big are her feet? Ooh, what's her elbows like?" Always, weird internet stuff. But no one was like, "When did she move into this castle?" And she's rich. The castle's full of like expensive things. She could have easily have modified it.
Well, that is the other thing about her. Is that, so my friend Chris, and actually Callum used the same phrase, said he felt like it got to a point where a lot of people were sort of performatively horny about her.
Yeah, she looks quite corpse-like. Like, her skin is she's all grey and like she looks like she does look like a dead thing, I think.
She's got some of the best rendered skin I've ever seen in the game because it is like, it's A, very realistic. B, it does look like she's just overdone it a bit with the foundation, but then it also looks like she's concealing something inhuman. Like, there's a lot going on with the way the skin's textured. Actually, just in general, like, the animation on that model is wild. Like, the folds in the dress and stuff.
Oh yeah, a great creation. But I think people were overdoing it a bit.
Well, it felt a bit to me like, because she's a big, strong lady with massive tits, right? And the first people I saw kind of going wild for her were gay and bisexual women. And then it felt to me like a bunch of like the I'm a good boy, I'm a soft boy lads were like, oh, this is a woman I'm allowed to be horny about, and so was then. That's kind of what I saw. But like, if you're genuinely horny for the big woman, that's cool. Don't worry about it. We've all been there.
She's got 3 normal-sized daughters.
It's true.
It seems like the giantness was a key component of the horniness, because nobody's going wild for the normal-sized daughters, are they?
No, but I wonder if she's like disappointed that they aren't big as well. I think they're daughters in the sense of like, daughters of the night or whatever. She's she's turned normal people in, but she was turned into a giant. I don't know why that game would be so much better if there were like 4 massive women tromping around that house. Like a big lady and her 3 massive daughters.
Just like banging into stuff.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a bit horny for the giant vampire, but I'll tell you why not her daughters, because they all turn into loads of flies.
Oh,
and that's a real turn off. Admittedly, the big lady does turn into a big sort of hell dragon with a very unsubtle vagina dentata for a mouth. That's not exactly, peak sexy.
I think if they were bigger, they'd turn into they'd break down into a bigger animal other than flies, or do you think they'd be more flies?
I think they've definitely got they've got big. What was the man off Nightmare Before Christmas? It was like a bag full of
Oogie
bugs.
Boogie.
Oh yeah.
They've got that whole vibe to them. Like, I don't think it's ever going to be like yeah, basically you can't have the best of both worlds here. Like they're titans and like turn into swarms of kittens.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be quite freaky as well. A swarm of kittens coming after you.
That would be pretty bad.
I'm not sure.
Look, we're stuck. We've been stuck on the giant woman for a while now. Nate, what big giants have you brought to the table today?
It'd be funny if I bought some tiny giants. I'm gonna say the lads off of Banner Saga. I'm just trying to remember the name. The Val. I really like Banner Saga's lore because, you know, Vikings have been very popular and sort of Norse stuff for a long time. It's one of these things that really does get done to death, and I've been over it for a while. But Banner Saga was really, really clever. It took some of the sort of, I guess, you know, visual and thematic notes from Norse myth stuff, but then it just made its own world completely. So it didn't feel like yet another thing. Oh, when's Loki going to show up? It was, yeah, it had its own really interesting mythology. And part of that were these giants called the Val, who are big lads with horns. And they've all got different horns as well, which is quite interesting because it was, you know, the art in that game, of course, was amazing stuff based off a very famous Disney animator off of the 1950s, whose name I can't remember. Something Avon. But yeah, the art was amazing, and you could see so much of people's personalities in the way they were drawn. And it was done really well with these giants, because you had one sort of morose, thoughtful, sort of accountant type almost, who had little sort of stubby horns. And this big, terrifying berserker who had like giant bull horns, and one was snapped off. And, you know, it was cool. And they were all really, it's a very, very melancholy game. And they're right at the heart of that melancholy, because they're like immortal, like your Tolkien elves, but also like your Tolkien elves, there's not going to be any more. You know, what you've got is what you've got. And they only have one gender, and they don't reproduce. So the ones that were there at the start of time was all there's going to be. And obviously the Banner Saga is about wandering about in a caravan trying not to make terrible decisions. And you've got a certain number of humans with you and a certain number of Val. And if you make a bad decision and you lose like 15 Val, you feel awful. Because that's it.
God.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what the makeup of the group was. In my head, it was all giants. And when you've just got a load of giants, they don't seem as giant because you need the smaller people. I forgot that they were mixed in with people.
Oh, yeah, and it looked great because the caravan travelling segments are seen side on as well. And so you had all these little scurrying mans and these big chunguses just lumbering amongst them. And it really did, even in like the character portrait screens where, you know, they pop up and their dialogue is in subtitles, they would fill more of the screen and just seem far vaster. You never forgot they were giants.
That's a good giant.
That's a good giant, yeah.
Can't beat him.
I don't have loads of good giant. I mean, obviously, I have my own giant women in the Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC, where you go and meet the gods, and they're all just massive, and like probably massive as well, because Cassandra is in a way also a good giant, because she's like 6.5 feet tall, and then these women are like 2 to 3 foot taller than her. It's just like these massive, like goddesses striding about the landscape.
It's good because even though they're massive, they still have like sort of human proportions. You know, often with giants, they're all like, you know, the height's in the leg or something. Where these people just look like they've been zoomed in a bit too much. Like,
they're just big. Yeah.
Are they bigger than Count Begula off of Resident Evil?
Or
Probably maybe about, certainly not smaller, I don't think.
I'd love to see him fight. That'd be amazing.
Giant fights.
But I did want to mention the giants in Skyrim as well, because I think they're really nice. Like, they're very aggressive whenever you go near them, obviously. But then, when you loot their stuff, they're just cheese farmers making horrible mammoth cheese.
Bless them.
Yeah. Just leave them alone. And also they're good. There are a lot of good bugs associated with the giants, like, because if one of them smashes you with their big not hammer, club, then you go flying.
That was the thing that persuaded me to buy Skyrim. It made me laugh so much when I saw it happen. I had to have a bit of that for myself.
It's so good.
Are they big dumb giants, or do they talk sort of normally? Because that's a trope I don't like, is big slow giants.
Well, they are big and slow, but I don't think that. I mean, they're advanced enough to have a form of cheese-based agriculture. So,
how advanced is that, though?
Well, the sad thing is, no one really takes the time to ask them their thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, because they would smash you into orbit.
Yeah.
It's just this idea that the bigger you get, like the slower everything is in your head. I don't know, like you've got more body to run or something. And as a big man, that isn't true.
Maybe the giants are running at normal speed to them, and then we're just fast running around them.
Oh, well, you know what? That's just biomechanics. Because I remember watching Empire Strikes Back as a kid and wonder, why are the big walkers so slow? And then there's a really good shot where Luke Skywalker's mucking around with one of the legs. And it moves, and it's well fast. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just my brain, but in the way your brain passes far away things as being small, but they're just far away. You don't think they're actually small. Like, it's the same thing. Like, big things moving quickly look like they're moving slowly because they're moving less distance relevant to the size of what they are.
Right.
But our brain doesn't pass that. Like, planes in the sky look like they're crawling along at a pathetic speed.
Right. But they're going
ants look like they're running really quickly, but that's just because, they're covering 100 ant lengths. Interesting. Maybe this is just incredibly basic stuff, and there's just a severe, cog shattered in my mind that meant this is a revelation to me. But there you go.
It's just interesting that in fantasy, things tend to get faster the smaller they are. Like little pixies and elves talk incredibly fast. Fairies are like, oh, hello, in like high helium voices. And giants are always, oh, hello, but giant.
Yeah, but
I like it when it's subverted.
That's how I hear you speak, Matthew.
No, that isn't true. Come on.
It is.
That's preposterous. I tell you what, it's a real thrill for me. This is a little tangent. It's a real thrill when I see someone who's taller than me. Like, I really enjoy that. I'm like, yeah, nice, huge. It's great.
Yeah. Do you not feel threatened?
No, not at all. I'm like, oh, great. Look how tall that person is. That's amazing. And I think, do people, I'm reasonably tall, but I think, do you feel that way about taller people?
Well, no, because a lot of people are taller than me. Because I'm quite short.
That's the thing. I thought that might be the case. It's less special. But when I see someone who is like notably taller than me, I'm like, wow, look at that.
But someone who's notably
extraordinarily average height.
Yeah, because someone who's noticeably taller than you, Matthew, is like Steve Merchant, like this.
Yeah, well, that's what I picked the name Greg Davies today. Greg Davies, I would say, is noticeably taller than I am.
Yeah.
So I met him once. He hosted the Games Media Awards one year, and he came to the after party because he seemed like a good laugh. Had a photo with him, and I was like, blimey, this guy's huge. He's massive. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say Matthew's one of the best giants in games.
Oh.
There you go. A giant of the heart.
Oh,
and of the body, but, mostly the heart.
Yeah.
A heart, the weight of Shergars, indeed. Just a grossly enlarged heart.
Yeah, it's swelled with Rio.
Or imagine do you reckon you could survive it if all the blood in your body was replaced with Rio for like 2 seconds? And if you did survive, can you imagine how much of a god you would feel?
I feel like even if you did survive, the health complications afterwards would render the rest of your life miserable.
Oh no, a doctor has promised you that if you live, everything will be fine forever.
Doctors say a lot of things that...
Yeah, they do actually, yeah. But this is Dr. Rio Tropicale.
Oh,
well, in that
the
case,
inventor of Rio.
Yeah, I feel like he's even less trustworthy. He's clearly got a bias in this.
Oh no, it's named after him because it was a serum that he created. That's why it tastes so good.
That has got big Resident Evil energy, that.
Well, it has, hasn't it? All the bloody serums and tonics.
Yeah.
Oh, well, talking about Assassin's Creed as well, I have played that DLC and I can talk about it now because the embargo's up. I didn't do a review for embargo. I'm probably going to write about it, but I didn't do a full review because it's more Assassin's Creed. It's just Irish flavored. And that is interesting if you have interest in, Ireland and Irish culture. And it's nice for the Irish to see themselves in games, I guess, in a way that is not a kind of Lucky Charms leprechaun portrayal.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, it does add a really good new horrible kill because you're up against some evil druids, so the kind of main enemy faction. There are nice druids as well, but there are some evil ones. And
are they giant?
Some of them are very giant, yeah.
Oh wow!
So some of them are sort of they're so one of them could like spit fire, I think, or like he spits oil across the ground and then sets that on fire. And they wear like animal bone kind of big antlers and stuff, and they're massive. And a lot of them have sickles. And then one of the like mega Viking kills you can do, the stun attack, you kind of really horribly manually cut their head off with their own sickle.
Oh,
and it's
yikes.
really grim.
Is it like an extraordinarily dark, why are you hitting yourself?
Well, no, I mean, in fairness, all the special attacks, like you grab the person's weapon and then impale them on it somehow, whatever. But in this, you kind of like, you get behind them and then sort of like from your left to right, just get the sickle round their head and just really horribly.
Oh my word. I think giants, the giant enemy types in Assassin's Creed Valhalla get it way worse than the normal guys. Because the normal guys, like, you can stick a sword in them and they're kind of dead, but it's implied that the giant body requires more than that. So Ava, like, properly sort of like, whack-a-moles their heads in with a sledgehammer or something.
Yeah.
It's not just enough to stab a giant. You have to absolutely, like, devastate its corpse. It's horrible.
And I tell you what, like, talking about your time dilation for giant people, I actually think the giant enemies in Valhalla are good because they're not all big and slow and lumbering. A lot of them are just regular speed.
Yeah, when you fight like the big sort of zealot characters, they they're reasonably big. They're not massive giant, but they're probably a little bit taller than you. They go super fast, and you often think, I'll take a few shots and run away, and then you see one of those sods like vaulting over a fence or something. Yeah. You're like, blimey, that guy goes fast. I couldn't do that. I couldn't vault over a fence.
No, me either.
But hopefully no one would be just trying to kill me as I walk around Bath.
Giant!
Do you know, my mum claimed she'd never jumped in her life.
What?
And I'll just say she had no motile disability whatsoever. She just claimed she'd never jumped. And because I was like, Mum, I don't think I've ever seen you jump. How high can you jump? Because like when I was a kid and you asked really weird questions like that. And she's like, oh no, I've never jumped. And then I remembered this in my 20s. It was like, Mum, you remember when you told me you'd never jumped? And she, yes. Well, that's isn't it? You must have jumped at some point. No. And she just clearly she had said it when I was a child to shut down the attempt to get her to jump because she didn't feel like jumping.
Yeah.
But when I called her on it, rather than saying, "Oh no, I just made that up to end the discussion," she doubled down on it.
Oh, wow.
So no, I've never jumped in my life.
I will say I don't jump much. Like I don't enjoy it. Like I don't, it's not something I go for. I think it's a lot of work for like quite small returns.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to say.
Like I can probably step further than I could jump, I think.
But I mean, you would never claim that you've never jumped.
No.
I just found that outrageous. That was such a gambit.
There are so many like activities that require jumping. As part of the like skipping.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's quite sad.
Yeah, because I even said, like, what happened at PE when you were at school? Were you like a conscientious objector to jumping?
I'll tell you what, on PE day, you'd love to get matched against her in the long jump, wouldn't you? You'd be like, oh, there she was. She came in at, let me check my notes, so that's 0 centimetres. Like, yes,
for I will not jump.
Did not jump. Classic DNJ.
Any more giants for any more?
Yeah, I think I had one more in my book of giants.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've deleted my notes from last week. It will forever be a mystery.
All right, Matthew. Any giants?
I've got quite a lot of giants in the Cavern of Lies. So.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, it's Matthew's caverns. But in that case, should we do a sting and then make our way into the cavern?
Do we have to do an advert?
Oh, we do. I keep forgetting. We'll do a pause for an advert.
The Cavern of Endorsements.
Want to keep up with all the latest happenings in video games? Well, you should listen to the PC Gaming Week Spot, RPS's weekly recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming.
And Mystery Steam Reviews.
PC Gaming Week Spot is a magazine-style podcast where I, Colin Ahern, and he, Matthew Castle, chat about all the biggest news stories.
Don't forget Mystery Steam Reviews.
We also give you previews and reviews on the latest video games, from the big AAA releases to the lovely indie darlings.
And Mystery Steam Reviews.
And every week we open up the Week Spot mailbag to answer your burning questions on everything from Xbox Game Pass for PC to how we like our eggs. Alright, go on, Matthew.
What?
Tell them about Mystery Steam Reviews.
Oh, yeah, there's Mystery Steam Reviews too.
A little more.
That's our weekly quiz segment where we test each other's game knowledge via Steam reviews. The clue's in the name. The important thing to note is it's the part of the show where I usually kick your ass.
Yeah, when you're cheating.
When I'm cheating. Oh man, you are so full of shit.
So download the PC Gaming Week Spot every Tuesday to stay up to date on all the important stuff in video games. You can subscribe via all good podcatching apps so you never miss an episode. Or you can listen to us or watch the video version if you prefer podcasts you can look at on rockpapershotgun.com.
I'd recommend watching just so you can see a grown man, me, crush another grown man, him, in a stupid quiz about PC games.
I admire your belief, if nothing else. So go subscribe to the PC Gaming Week Spot podcast, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming.
And we will now do another sting for the Cavern of Lies.
The Cavern of Lies.
Oh, interesting read this week, but
it would have actually been better if it had been the Cavern of Lies, because you've fallen very far into this cavern.
Oh no.
And I greet you. Welcome to my cavern.
Very Gul'dan thing to say. I greet you.
I greet you. Well, I am... you may remember me. My name's Tobias Beckford. I am the famous Novigrad puppet master from The Witcher 3.
Oh my goodness! Did Geralt get your puppets back?
Well, this is the thing. I've fallen into this deep, deep cave while looking for my stolen puppets.
Yeah, classic.
Yes. And my only chance of escape, and now your only chance of escape, is for us to coax some giant characters to stand on each other's shoulders so that we can climb up to escape this cave.
Oh, this is a solid framing concept.
But the problem is, so there are 5 giant creatures down here, and I actually think it's going to take 4 of these creatures to get out of here. But one of them isn't real. One of them isn't a real giant creature, and the other ones they won't work for us unless we kill the fake amongst them, using that bolt gun from No Country for Old Men.
Right.
We got one of those.
A lot of elements going on here. I like it. Yeah. Okay.
That's just a bit of colour.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
So I'm going to introduce you to 5 giants. Then you have to kill 1 giant. Most of them are humanoid. Some of them are just big things.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you 5 giants. Pick out the fake.
Okay.
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first giant is from the Yakuza series. He's called Mr. Shakedown.
Okay.
He's a giant bloke, and he walks around beating up people for money. But the weird thing is, Mr. Shakedown is actually several giant blokes, all going by the same nickname, and each one is motivated to steal money for different reasons. So, for example, one of them dreamt of becoming the strongest being in the universe, and so he had to undertake extreme workouts, like fighting sharks in fist fights.
What?
And to pay for that, it cost him a huge amount of money to set those fights up. So now he's robbing people. There's another one. He's really jealous of Majima's hair, and so he's trying to pay for like hair implants. So that's kind of Mr. Shakedown's deal. He's like a big 8-foot guy. If he sees you, beats you up and takes your money.
Okay.
Oh, see, now this is real. I'm struggling with this because I've never quite, having not played a Yakuza, I do want to. I've never been able to quite pin down the tone.
I think we'll put a pin in this one because that's very plausible for Yakuza, I think.
Okay.
So unless something else sounds...
Our next giant
Okay.
creation it's a giant train from Final Fantasy VIII, a living train. Well, kind of an undead giant train called Doom Train. Imagine a giant train, but it looks like it was made entirely out of bones.
Right.
And to get Doom Train, you actually read about it in a magazine. There's like a rumor of this giant bone train that you can summon, and you have to summon him into the game.
What's the magazine?
What's the magazine? It's called something like Occult Monthly or something.
Or something. Okay.
Yeah, I don't really remember. Like, I'm a bit vague. Listen, I'll say I'm a bit vague on that. But you have to summon him you have to get 6 tentacles, 6 pipes, and 6 remedies. 666, it's the number of the beast, also summons the Doom Train. And if you fight him, he becomes your pal.
Okay.
So
that is absolute horse turds.
Well, I say becomes your pal. I mean, he's like a summon you can use. That's how you have to
okay.
You have to beat him down to kind of really make him your pal. Not pal. I should stop saying pal. Like, I don't think you're friends with him. You're his master. You know.
He's an employee, not a mate.
You've kind of employed the Doom Train.
Okay.
Yeah. Next up, we return to my favourite Divinity Original Sin 2 for a giant who is called Abnormally Big Charles. He appears on the Nameless Isle in the 3rd act. The quest is called the ABC Murders, which stands for Abnormally Big Charles. It's so named as you find lots of crushed bodies across the island. The trail of destruction leads you to a beach where you find this giant sobbing because he was just trying to play with people and he killed them by mistake with his giant size. If you talk to him, you normally end up fighting him unless you've got the DLC character Solora, the squirrel, who explains to him that if I, a humble squirrel, can become a knight, then surely a giant can become whatever they want to be, and you kind of talk him out of his rage.
Okay.
So he's the big man off Mice and Men?
Yeah.
I feel like Matthew may have signed his crime here a little bit. because the ABC Murders is obviously a very famous Poirot.
But it's true. It does. I mean, that sounds like Matthew bait.
Yeah.
But it
But,
also
like, that's
sounds
the-
like something Matthew's made up.
Yeah.
But Divinity, it's pretty silly. It loves its silly wordplay.
That is a Divinity-esque joke. I'll give you that.
No, I think silly wordplay is a Divinity-esque joke. I think silly wordplay about Agatha Christie is a Matthew-esque joke.
Well, let's find out. Let's listen to some of the others.
Yeah, okay.
Next up, we have the amazing Ooper from Baldur's Gate. He's an ogre who works for the illusionist Gazib at the Nashkel Carnival. As part of their act, Gazib summons Ooper, who appears from nowhere and then explodes. Now, Ooper doesn't like doing this. If you ask Gazib to do the spell too many times, Ooper gets cross and you have to fight him.
Ah, okay.
So that is the amazing Ooper from Baldur's Gate 1.
That feels very real.
There were too many very specific fantasy names there, I think, for Matthew to have made up in a row.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay.
That sounds legit. Finally, we have the Cloud Giant from The Witcher 3, specifically from the Blood and Wine expansion. Because there's a quest where you enter a kind of a fairy tale illusion and meet loads of classic fairy tale characters. So Geralt has to climb Rapunzel's tower, you fight the big bad wolf, and the Cloud Giant is kind of a riff on Jack and the Beanstalk. You climb up and rob him, and you have to fight this giant in the clouds.
Okay. What does the Cloud Giant look like?
It's just like big, kind of flat. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember, but he's like
That old classic.
No, I genuinely, I should have done more. I should have done. What does he look like? Let me look him up very quickly. I'll search for him on Google. You can hear me typing in Cloud Giant.
Oh, this is messed up. Like, this is throwing off all of my detection mechanisms. It's like when fighter planes just fire out loads of chaff to frighten missiles.
Okay, so the Cloud Giant, he's kind of dressed like a knight, but with like sort of like he looks like an ancient knight. He's got like ivy growing out of his armor.
Okay.
Oh, you were just buying time to think.
Oh, I genuinely looked that up.
Okay.
All right. So, what are you thinking, Nate?
Oh, that second one was so nonsensical. I've actually put it out of my mind and just had it down as nonsense.
The Doom Train. I think that's some authentic Final Fantasy sounding nonsense.
Really though, a train that you read about in a magazine? You know, if giant sort of demonic machines are roaming the landscape, you don't pick up, hello to find out about it. It's on the news.
I don't know. Have you played many Final Fantasies?
Famously not.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with your instinct there. And again, you speaking of your instinct, you reckon that Mr. Shakedown getting massively in debt by setting up fish fights with sharks.
See, again, Nate, I think you should play some Yakuza, because I do think Yakuza is authentic Nate bait, just in general.
If that's the sort of business that's going on in people's backstories, yeah.
Yeah, like there was one where I walked in on Cullen playing it, and he was trying to catch this guy that was, I think, stealing women's underwear from their washing lines using a drone.
Powerful.
There's a lot going on in Yakuza, and I feel like Mr. Shade. Quiet, Greg Davies. I don't like you trying to.
It's Tobias Beckford.
Sorry, Tobias Beckford. Oh, we should do some Tobias Beckford merch, shouldn't we? That'd be good. I'll be honest. I think it's abnormally big Charles because of the ABC Murders thing. I think that's like I would just listen to the audiobook of this book where like the bad guy at the end like signed his crime by like living somewhere on a street that was an anagram of his name and stuff like that. And like did crossword clues and stuff. Because I get the like, you know, Divinity Original Sin does like lots of contemporary references and stuff. But I just don't think that Larry and a big Poirot fans.
I mean, like, listen, if you don't want to get out of this cave, that's fine. It's really up to you, you know.
Listen, Tobias, like, you were born in a lie. Like, you have no authority here.
There's quite a Bane vibe to this setup.
It really is.
I just can't see these, like, you know, these kind of cool Europeans being like, oh yeah, Agatha Christie.
There's like references to like, you know, all kinds of daft stuff in there.
Give me another reference that is of the same caliber as Agatha Christie.
I mean, I will say, like, there's probably not another Christie reference in there.
No, I'm not saying Christie. I'm saying that would be of a type.
Off the top of my head, it's quite hard to think of another one. And I know that makes it seem incredibly suspect, but listen, that's...
Because also, it's not really a big crossover with, like, the gamer demographic. As well. Do you know, it's not a very contemporary reference. It's a very good Christie, but it's, you know, I know I'm getting really hung up on this, but
no, do you know what? I've been cogitating, and I think it's nonsense. Big nonsense.
Okay. So what, are you gonna put the bolt gun to abnormally Big Charles's head?
Yeah,
what does he look like?
Yeah, what does abnormally Big Charles look like, Matthew?
Oh, the giants in that game are like super old school, like fantasy giants.
Well, that's lucky, isn't it?
They're just, you know, big dudes. They got a lot of flesh on. They wear
would you say they look like the first thing that would...
kind of clothes, I'd say.
Do they look like the first thing that would come to mind, indeed, when asked what a giant looked like?
Yeah, I mean, it's classic. It's a classic fantasy giant. That game's got short dwarves with big beards. It's got big giants who wear like scraps of rags.
So hang on. So he is a giant, and giants exist in this world, but his name is abnormally big Charles.
Yes.
Ah.
Well, he's the only giant on the Nameless Isles.
This is rubbish. The more we question you about this, the more holes a bit.
No, it's because if you question any of them, they get vaguer and vaguer because that's just the nature of how knowledge is in my head.
Matthew,
can you hear the desperation?
This is the bit in The Fugitive. You're at the end of the pipe, and we're the cop who showed up behind you with a gun. Are you going to jump? Really?
Listen, I don't think I've blown this a la Tobias Beckford, The Stolen Puppets. I don't think there's
name Charles as well. If it's a classic.
Yeah, it'd be called like Bugnor or something.
No, but this. I'm telling you. This is Divinity's vibe.
Bang! That's the bolt gun firing.
So you've killed abnormally Big Charles.
I certainly bloody have.
Killed him dead.
You've killed abnormally Big Charles. And that means you will be escaping the Cavern of Lies.
Yes!
Oh, I knew I overcooked that with the ABC murders. Why did I put that in? Even Catherine said that was too much.
That was really good. I mean, I was going to say that was good teamwork, but really, I just did the one really cool interrogation question at the end. Alice, that was a masterpiece of instincts.
Oh,
thank you. But I think you did a lot of very good questioning there. Like, because in the end, I think we both, you know, had noted like that it held no water at all, Matthew.
It didn't smell good, that one.
It had all the details of the squirrel and everything. Oh, god damn it.
It really was the ABC murders bit. You couldn't help yourself.
I put you onto it. I was hoping you were going to go for the cloud giant.
You wanted to get caught, Matthew. You wanted to get caught. You're like those serial killers who leave notes saying, please stop me.
I mean, technically, Tobias Beckford's been trapped down in this cavern. He also wants to escape. It's in his, you know, it's his benefit if you guys get it right. So You know.
I felt like you were being really deliberately sus with the cloud giant as well. Oh, let me go and check.
No, I genuinely did need to look it up. I couldn't remember what it looked like.
Amazing.
Well, there you go. We'll climb out and, maybe I'll see you in another cavern.
Banging, Kevin. Thanks, Tobias.
Cheers.
Oh, that was really good. Thank you, Matthew.
That was excellent.
I am going to ask about the possibility of doing Tobias Beckford merch as well. I think that'd be really funny.
Can I do a character design for him? I've got strong opinions.
Maybe. Well, it depends what for. I guess it would be like some kind of T-shirt because I don't think Teespring do puppets.
They should.
They should.
Yeah, but we'll have a think about that. I think that'd be really funny. But yeah, thank you very much, Matthew. And all that remains this week is for us to do some recommendations because at the end of every podcast, we recommend something that isn't a video game.
Games.
So who wants to go first this week?
Yeah, I'll take the plunge.
My goodness. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really on top of this game, huh? So this is, listen, I'm going to have to pause the aquarium recommendations for a while because, like, there's so much, there's a whole world out there to recommend to you, dear listener. But the problem is I've forgotten what I have and haven't recommended. And I feel it would be unprofessional to repeat. So I'll do the next best thing. And if you want to just discover more about doing aquariums real good from a source that I will personally endorse, there's a Hungarian aquascaping specialist shop called Green Aqua. And they've got a really charming YouTube channel. Their manager is this extraordinarily urbane, but also very goofy man who sort of lounges around drinking green tea and giving spotless advice about high-end aquarium maintenance. But will then like creep up to one of his colleagues, sneakily take away the tool they're using, and then wink at the camera. And then minutes later, their colleague in the background will just be frustratedly looking for this tool. The guy's a master of comic timing, but he's also very good at aquariums. Green Aqua, lovely channel. And if you happen to visit Hungary, great shop as well.
Very good.
There you go.
Thank you very much, Nate. Matthew, what have you got for us this week?
I'm going to recommend another book. I'm going to. I don't think this has been recommended before. I read Recursion by Blake Crouch, which is a sci-fi thriller about someone creating a sort of memory machine to combat Alzheimer's and create something else in the process.
A gorilla with metal arms. Sorry, I couldn't help.
But I can't really say what it is because it sort of spoils what the book's about. But it's a really good sort of head spinny sci-fi mystery, but like lots of quite grand. The characters are reasonably grounded, but it's also just a real page turner. I ripped through it in a couple of days, and I thought it was great.
Smashing. Thank you very much, Matthew. I don't have a book recommendation this week. I've slowed down on my reading the past few weeks because I've had too much stuff to do. But I'm going to recommend this week the Discworld jigsaw puzzles that are new on the Discworld Emporium shop. They are. I was torn between. I didn't know where to get some of the jigsaw puzzles or a big whack of the new library edition books they've got. But the jigsaws are really, really nice. The boxes they come in are made to look like books, like big kind of tomes, and they're themed after each jigsaw. So I've got, and it's original artwork as well, so it's new. And I've got one of Death's Study, and I've got one of Granny Weatherwax's cottage, and they're really nice detailed pictures as well. They've got loads of little hidden bits from the books in them,
Oh, the art's brilliant. I remember you showed me the other day. Well,
Yeah.
good.
Really, really nice. I like jigsaws a lot. I like hobbies. All my hobbies are things where I can do little sort of picking around with my hands, like a little chimpanzee. But yeah, they're really good. Lovely stuff. All right. Well, thank you, dear listener, for joining us for this episode 100 of the Electronic Wireless Show, the Best Giants in Games special. Remember to look for Rock Paper Shotgun on all your social media channels. Well, I say all two. We're on Twitter and Facebook. Remember to look us up on YouTube as well. And remember to join the Discord where you can chat about the podcast as well as all things video games in general. Remember to check out our sister podcasts, of which there are 2. And you'll probably have heard an ad for one of them today. And remember to go to www.rockpapershotgun.com for all your PC gaming needs. I'm Alice Bell, and I've been joined this week by Greg Davies.
Thank you for having me.
Is that your Greg Davies?
No, that was just me speaking in a weird voice. I don't know what happened there.
Okay. David Prout.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. Look both ways in case a car comes.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.